All right, let's get into it. Let's talk AFC wild card.
First game of the weekend. It was a very good game.
Can I just say this? The weekend went the exact same Saturday and Sunday. The first game of the day was fantastic. The second game made you take a full-on nap. It was the worst game of the day each time. And then the third game was just Sunday was interesting, but it wasn't that great either.
Mm-hmm.
But it started out the same. The first game was fantastic, and the second game was god-awful each time. But like you said, the first game on Saturday, the Buffalo Bills hold on to beat the Indianapolis Colts 27-24. Josh Allen, I know obviously the playoffs don't count as far as MVP stock goes, but if it did, this might have won him the MVP, as he has been just getting better and better throughout the year. 26-35 for 324, couple touchdowns. Also led the team with 54 yards rushing and ran one in as well. His first touchdown to Dawson Knox was ridiculous. It looked like a Madden play. It looked like he was rolling out to try to run it in, runs into a defender, and then just jumps up and tosses the ball, and Knox falls down and catches it. Just was a ridiculous backyard football kind of play.
Exactly. He kind of rolls over himself, yeah. I think the biggest one, for me is got to be Frank Reich's decision. And after the game, I posted out on it. I was like, you get into the playoffs, you have to put points on the board. And Rich Eisen talked about it today too. We talked about the same thing. You have to take points. I think the mess up with that series, first and goal, was a great play. I mean, they just stuffed them. Second and goal, tried to do it again. Their third play call, though, we tried to roll him out and then throw it. I think that was the stupid play. But after that, where you go 3 downs and you can't punch it in when you had it at the 2-yard line to begin with, take the points. And I understand that does affect, if you take the points there, yeah, that's going to change the scenarios down the road. But
anyone that goes, oh, they didn't kick the field goal and they lost by 3, that's why they lost, doesn't know how things work. Right. Nothing in the second half would have played out anywhere near the same if they had kicked the field goal.
But it's playoff time. You got to put points on.
Who knows if Blankenship even makes the field goal? He missed a short one later on in the game.
Right.
So, I agree with you. On that fourth down play, if they didn't lose the yardage on third down, I go for it every time. 4th and 1, at the 1, you go for it.
Yeah, and I agree, but I think it goes back to the third down call. That third down call Frank Reich made was terrible. Was absolutely terrible. But, I mean, to lose by 3, you look at a couple of the play callings he did even in the second half. It led a few questions about that. But Josh Allen's just that good.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we agree. So I want to get your opinion on the other decision he made, because it ended up not mattering, but me and a buddy got into it a little bit. So we both agree going for it on 4th down from the 4 was the incorrect play. However, later on in the game, early on in the fourth quarter, the Colts are down by 14. They score a touchdown and go for 2. Do you agree with that or not?
All these coaches now are into the analytics and watch the numbers. What is the numbers? I'm sorry, that's still old school. You score a touchdown, kick the field goal. You're still down, only down 7 if that's the case, and you make the field goal. I put yourself in that scenario where you're possibly down 3 points if you score twice, which exactly happened.
Here is where I did not the field goal. They scored the touchdown.
Right, the extra point.
So here's why I totally agree with what the coach did, and I know a lot of people get all upset with it. Again, analytics, and people get all butthurt about it. But 2-point conversions are about a 50-50 chance, right?
Right.
As far as people,
like 42% or something.
It's right in there. Extra points obviously are down this year and over the last few years. Ever since they moved the extra point back, kickers have missed extra points on a far greater pace.
Mm-hmm.
So, would you rather go for it for 2 there and make it a 6-point game where no matter what, if you score again, it's now tied and the extra point gives you the lead? Or kick the extra point there, and now when you score, you still have to worry about one more extra point being messed up when they happen all the time this year to then tie the game. I like the chance of going for 2. If you don't make it, you're still down 8. That's still a 1-possession game. You just have to go for 2 again, which they did later on in the game to make it a 3-point game. And if you do make it, all of a sudden a touchdown and an extra point wins you the game. I think there's more benefit for going in that route, which Reich did, than going the safe route like you're talking about.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have agreed before they put the extra point back.
And if there was left where it was
where they're picking it from the
2. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think I'm still old school. I'd rather play the tie if it happens to get there. So for me, I still can see both ways, but I think I'd still rather have the chance of, tying it up instead of and getting into extras. I think that's the way to go. I don't think going for 2 there in that situation was the right call.
Either way, it didn't really cost them the game. And again, anyone that says not kicking that field goal is the reason the Colts lost doesn't understand how football works and how the butterfly effect would have changed everything. Nothing plays out the same from there. It's not like that happened with a minute and a half to go. So I think it changes a lot of things. I'm surprised Buffalo still holds on to win. They got outplayed in most of this game. Could not run the ball. Their running backs only carried the ball 10 times in that game, which kind of worries me next week, as they will take on the Baltimore Ravens, who beat the Tennessee Titans 20-13 in a hard-hitting game. And we were both very, very wrong about the rushing totals in this game, as the Ravens completely were able to shut down Derrick Henry. He only gets 40 yards on the ground on 18 carries. Now I'm going to give you a minute to gloat for a second before I get on your team.
Well, the big thing I think is big factors there was the defense played together and hard, and having Ngakoue down there, having Calais Campbell along with Derek Wolfe, and you see those guys, and they were able to shut things down quite, especially hold the number 1 rusher in the NFL to 40 yards. It tips the cap to what those guys do. But to watch Calais Campbell mentor and to talk to the other guys and say, I like your play. You're able to do this. Let's do this together. And watching them, even in practice this week, you could see the flow was they were going to focus on Derrick Henry huge. So, but Lamar is getting to where he's playing back to the free-spirited and not being, almost told exactly where he needs to be going all the time. He was able to, those couple of rushes, 48-yard touchdown, traveled 72 yards. But for him to do it between the tackles before he broke out, 20 yards down the field and then finally hit to the sideline, I mean, that just tells you he's starting to see things a little bit different. I do agree with what he needs to be doing. They were forcing him to have to look outside the numbers, and that's his big play. Everything he wants is inside the numbers. That's why he likes Mark Andrews the way he does. That's why he likes, throwing to Willie Snead in the middle in those routes. That's just Lamar and what he did the last 3 minutes of the ball game, managing the game, just tells me he's starting to grow up. And I think that's a big hats off to Greg Roman and John Harbaugh and what they're doing with those players. So.
And I think it's just going to get a little better for him, as now he's got that monkey off his back and getting the first playoff win, which still drives me nuts. He's only lost 2 playoff games.
Exactly.
It's not like the Cincinnati situation where they lose every single year. He's young. This is his 3rd year in the league, and everyone wants to freak out just because he won the MVP and then kind of had a dud last year. But I got to get on your team a little bit. I didn't like how they ended that game. Why in the middle of this game are you running out to go stomp on the Tennessee Titans logo? I know they stomped on your logo in pregame earlier, either this year or playoffs, or whatever that was.
It was earlier in the year when they were there. So,
but why, with a minute to go, give yourself a 15-yard penalty where if Baltimore doesn't get that first down, you're still giving the Titans a decent field position? It just seemed not okay. I know the emotions are high for the playoff game, but they got to be able to control it a little better.
I don't know. I think they were just trying to make a point from the last time when Butler was out there doing his little thing from, when
Well,
they
then you
came
do
into
that
Baltimore.
pregame or postgame.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but you're in the heat of the moment. That's exactly the way they were talking. I mean, this all happened in the heat of the moment after the pick. Peters makes a great interception there, and heat of the moment, everybody comes out and that's what they did.
Speaking of heat of the moment, no handshakes.
I
This rivalry is not that big. This is not Baltimore-Pittsburgh. They weren't fighting throughout the game. We didn't have ejections or anything. I just go out, shake their hand.
Yeah, I think they wanted to make a point, but they didn't want to. I don't know.
I hate the fact that Lamar Jackson came out saying we were the bigger guys at the end of it. That's why we went off the field. No, you weren't.
Well, they were kind of the same on both halves. They were both jawing at the beginning of the game too.
Of course, you're going to jaw before the playoff game. They're going to jaw a lot with Buffalo. You have a lot of buildup, and at the end of the game,
there's a lot of buildup from last year too.
We're going to get into a little hockey preview later in this episode.
I didn't bring my pads or anything to wear, so we can't.
But neither of us are huge hockey fans.
Right.
But you play up to 7 straight games against a team, and they're fighting for 60 minutes every single game, getting into fist fights. At the end of that game, they line up and shake each other's hands, and I miss that about sports.
Stupid COVID.
Not even that.
Well, you said COVID within the first 3 minutes of the show today, so.
But I'm not even saying that's the reason Baltimore did not go shake hands because of COVID.
And not everybody went running into the tunnel. Lamar did, yes, and I will give you
80% of the team went. There was one other player that had to be held back because he wanted to jaw at the end of the game. Yeah. Everyone else left.
Yeah. It is what it is. I mean, it's some of it is.
I want to respect your team, and they're making it tough. It is now 7:00, and once again we're extending football because we can't help but talk.
We're nowhere close yet.
Not even. What are we doing? It is 43 degrees outside. Wind is down to 10 miles an hour, so that helps. It is getting a little calmer out there. You're listening to the R&R Sports Report right here on 88.7 KLCZ 88.9 FM. And now let's get into the craziest game of the weekend. The game that we got wrong that surprised me the most. We went 4-2. We picked every game the same. We got 4 right, so I'm happy with it. But this one surprised me the most is the Cleveland Browns beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 48-37, and it wasn't even that close.
No, and the biggest one for me is they scored 28 points in the first 5 minutes of their possessions.
Yeah.
I think it was 5 minutes and 20 seconds. And Denise was sitting there with us as we were watching the game, and that's exactly what it said. It was like 5 minutes, 5:20 is what they were, time of possession, and they were up 4 scores.
Well, it helps that Pittsburgh's first 6 drives were a fumble for a touchdown, which we'll get to, an interception, a 3-and-out punt, an interception, a punt, and an interception. So you're getting great field position at all times, scoring on one of them. It was just such a crazy game. And I just want to say this. I congratulate Cleveland. They obviously deserved to win. They played really hard, and they've been working for this for years. Their first playoff win since '95.
Something like that, yeah.
Against a team that I heard on a radio station the other day that Pittsburgh has finished ahead of Cleveland in the division standings every year since like 88, 87, somewhere in there. So obviously this was, the big monkey off their back. Right. To finally win a playoff game, and you do it against a division rival who's just owned you forever. However, I think Pittsburgh wins this game if they don't have that bad snap on the first play. That is such a gut punch for Pittsburgh. And you could see it on the players' faces, especially Big Ben and the center who I'm blanking his name on too, Pouncey. The moment that play happened, it was just ghost.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing that happened in the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning and when Denver and Seattle. Yeah, I mean, same idea.
Only 2 other times I remember that ever happening in a playoff game, and both times the game just completely went one-sided. I still think Seattle was the better team than Denver that year in the Super Bowl, but they wouldn't have blown them out. Right. But it's not just a gut punch for the team that it happens to. Think of the momentum it gives to Cleveland. that here we are. We haven't won a playoff game since '95. We finally made our playoff game for 15 years or whatever it was, and all of that hype and build up, and then you're scoring on defense on the first play of the game. That momentum goes for a long time, and it went for at least the first half.
And what happened in that second half, and I don't know, the same thing happens when Baltimore gets up. I mean, they threw out prevent defense in the second half. I mean, Cleveland just they knew they had it in hand just by the way that Pittsburgh were playing. And
I have no problem with that, just for the fact that we get on teams when you're playing prevent defense up one score.
Right.
But I have no problem playing prevent defense when you're up 28-0 early and you're just trying to take out a giant chunk of time.
Exactly.
We want Pittsburgh, who's a dink and dunk team anyways, to take 4 or 5 or 6 minutes every drive.
And you notice Big Ben had his timing was just way off, and you could even see it in his face at the end of the game. Him sitting he just did not look like it was that shocked look after that first play. It was the same look on his face then as it was at the end of the game.
This the last Big Ben game?
No, I don't think so. I think he comes back for one.
Do you think how long until his arm feels okay? He threw 68 passes on Sunday.
I don't know. He's got to get his. I don't remember who I was listening to yesterday, but they've got to get their receivers in line. I mean, you got Juju there, you got Claypool, who has been decent, but after his comment he made on TikTok, he reminded me. Here's the thing: as soon as I saw that, and as soon as I saw how DK Metcalf was responding, the images of Terrell Owens started coming back in my mind. And I'm going to say it right now: if DK and Claypool have that kind of influences to the point where they're crybaby prima donnas, get your butt off the team. I don't want to deal with that. I mean, a bad loss. His quote, and I took a snap off of it, and he was quoted on his TikTok. He says, "Bad loss, but the Browns are going to get clapped next week, so it's all good."
It's not all good.
It's all good. Let me tell you. I mean, if that is the case. And right now, the line on that game, Cleveland and Chiefs game, we'll get to that, but the line on it is 10 points right now. Dude, Claypool, you just got your butt kicked, and you're going to still keep running your mouth. Dude, you're a rookie. Sit down. Let's get it over.
We'll
come back as a better
because
player.
He's a rookie and he'll build. But he doesn't have a good mentor in Juju, that's for sure.
No.
Who makes a fool out of himself left and right.
And the same with DK. I mean, you come back to the bench, throw me the dang ball, and you throw your helmet, and you get mad, and you watch him yell right at Russell. Mm-hmm. All I could think about in both of those instances was, all right, here we go, the next Terrell Owens.
Hopefully
now we got to deal with it.
And especially for Seattle. DK Metcalf, just the size of that guy.
Yeah. But Baker actually played a decent game. 21 of 34, 263, 3 touchdowns. I mean, he looked like he was managing the team quite well. I mean, I was excited to watch this game, and then all of a sudden 28 to nothing.
Yeah, I went off and did other stuff.